What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Really excited about today's video. It's been a long time coming. I've actually taught on this topic in a bunch of different videos and bits and pieces, but it is definitely a topic that requires its own video, that deserves its own video. And this is one of these trainings that is going to be considered, in my book, like mandatory. If you want to level up your development and design capabilities, if you want to be more valuable to your clients, if you want to break that line, there is a line between good developers and great developers. Good developers don't do a lot of the things that I'm going to show you how to do in this training. Great developers do it because great developers care a lot about scalability and maintainability. And what we're going to talk about in this training is utility classes, styling everything with utility classes versus styling everything with custom classes. Of course, there is talk in here about styling at the ID level and other mistakes that beginner developers make. I even see intermediate developers make a lot of these mistakes. But if you've been in web design for any length of time, you have heard the concept of CSS frameworks, utility frameworks, and the concept of utility classes. And whenever somebody is introduced to utility frameworks and utility classes, and in another case, utility variables, what they always ask, and that's another reason I'm recording this video, because I am the creator of Automatic CSS, which right now, as we speak, is the #1 CSS framework for WordPress page builders. And I have a lot of people constantly asking me, Kevin, ACSS, Automatic CSS, is so powerful. Why shouldn't I just build everything with utility classes in Automatic CSS? Why is that bad? And it is bad, and it is something that I don't recommend. Automatic CSS is not a utility-first framework. So what we have to talk about in this training is how do you decide when to use utility classes and when to use custom classes? And if you use custom classes, or when you use custom classes, I should say, how do you still hook into the framework that you happen to be using? How do you not abandon that framework? Like, for example, how do we make sure that the spacing is still consistent? The typography is still consistent. In the case of ACSS, we have access to fluid responsive spacing, fluid responsive typography, a full color system. How do we not abandon all of that when we create our own custom classes and style things using the Bricks builder or the Oxygen builder or whatever builder you may be using? Hopefully that builder supports classes. And if you don't use a framework, I know I'm talking a lot here to set this up, but like I said, it is an involved topic. It is a very important topic. Even if you don't use a framework right now, this is a mandatory training for you to watch so that you understand, again, scalability and maintainability when building websites. There is a huge difference between just building a site and building a site that is scalable and maintainable. And again, that is the line between good developers and great developers. So if you want to level up, watch every minute of this video. Now, there is going to be a bunch of other golden nuggets sprinkled throughout this training. I'm going to go ahead and take my time. I'm not going to worry about the timer. I know this is YouTube. This is free, but I'm still going to give you the best that I can possibly give you. I'm not going to shorten this. I'm not going to, add in any fluff. We are going to get to the goods. Okay. If you like this, I want you to hit like right now, hit subscribe, and then be ready to drop comments, questions, anything else that you need as we go through this video. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So I'm going to screen share here. That was a 4-minute intro because, like I said, this is insanely important. Probably one of the most important videos that will be on this channel. So we're going to spend the time. Okay, we can invest the time. If you're serious about this stuff, we can invest the time. All right, so here is the sample website that I pulled up. I was like looking for what can we mimic here to use to bring some of these lessons to the forefront so that I can really teach. I wanted something simple, something that wasn't too involved because I don't want to worry about all the design aesthetics and all of that. I just want to focus on the core principles, okay? So you see we have a basic hero section here. We have a 2-column layout with an image and text and a little list and another element down here. We've got pretty nice service cards in this area. We've got a about our agency overlapping card effect going on here. We've got a talking points section with some stats. We have our about section with our headshot cards. We have a footer call to action section. Honestly, I don't know if we're going to build this entire page. I don't think it's necessary to build this entire page in order to teach what I want to teach and get the point across. We'll see as we go how deep we actually need to get into this and how far we need to go. But we're going to start here. We're going to start with what is the actual premise and what are we trying to accomplish? Again, when we build a website, we're trying to build a website that is maintainable and scalable. It is very possible that you can create elements just fine using utility classes, styling at the ID level. We can take this service card as an example. And if you build this card using utility classes, there's going to be a fundamental problem. So you absolutely can build the card with utility classes, but there's going to be a fundamental problem. And the fundamental problem is it's very difficult to edit that card in the future. See this padding right here? If that padding needs to change, we need to have more padding or less padding, and this is built with utility classes, you're going to have to go from card to card to card, removing the padding utility class and adding in a different padding utility class. If you style this at the ID level, same thing, you're going to have to go from card to card to card to change the padding value on all of those cards. If you style this with a custom class, and I'm also going to show you in this video how to bring BEM, B-E-M, block element modifier methodology into your custom classes when you're using a framework, by the way. I'm going to show you all of that. But if you use custom classes, you can change the styling of this one card and the styling of all other cards will update everywhere else. Now, there are other builders that say, hey, you don't need classes. We can create presets and things like this. It's the same thing. If you're creating presets, you're creating classes, okay? There's no difference between a preset and a class for the most part. So there are these other builders out there who are like classless builders. Of course, the builder itself is creating classes behind the scenes. You just don't see them. You're creating presets, which is effectively just classes. And the thing about it is workflow. So they'll claim that this is easier somehow, but what often you'll find is you're having to create these presets in a different area, and then you save them, and then you go to this other area in order to use them. And that is a workflow disaster. Classes are fundamental to CSS and web design and web development. So when you're adding classes to an element, you can style the class right there. You don't have to go anywhere else to style it, especially if you're using a page builder. So you can style it right there and then move on with your life. You don't have to go to a separate section, create an element, make it a global element, make it a preset, do all this other stuff, and then come back to where you were working and add it in. You don't have to do any of that. So classes, and this is why I released, which I'll link to below, another video called 20 capabilities or 20 features your page builder must have to be considered a professional page builder. And classes is one of them, and classes need to be front and center, all right? So what I think is the best way, instead of me rambling on and on, is just let's start building. Let's start building, and I'm gonna walk you through the decision-making process of how we decide what can be done with utility classes and what can be done with custom classes. And I think you understand by now, you should not be building an entire site with utility classes. That is not the purpose of a framework like automatic CSS. It is not something that I recommend. That is a big misconception. It is not a utility first framework, okay? It is a fundamental framework for consistency, for scalability and maintainability, mainly using variables, which you're going to see, and then utility classes in certain cases, okay? So let's just go ahead and start building. I'm going to open up, we're going to close that. I want to get rid of some of these tabs, okay? Let's have two tabs. Let's have our sample site and let's have the page that we're actually working on. All right, so I'm going to first add this hero section here. And what you're going to find is there is a lot of gray area. So I want you to watch until the very end. Don't miss any of the context. Don't miss any of the gray area talk. Absorb this entire training because, again, it is fundamental. So I need a text element, I need a heading, and I need a button. So in this container right here, I am going to add a text element, a heading, and a button. Next, I am going to add the background image here. I'm just going to go ahead and steal these direct URLs. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to actually upload these to the website. Let's go ahead and steal this one. And in this case, this sample site was built using Elementor, which is not a professional page builder. And you're going to see a lot of mistakes along with a lot of divception involved in this. They used a background image for this. I prefer to use real images whenever possible, not background images. So what I am going to do, and thankfully Bricks makes this very easy, is I am going to add an image to this first section, just a real full image. And then I'm going to pop in that external URL, and there is our image right there. Now, here's another mistake made because probably they're using Elementor, I don't know, but they've uploaded a darkened image. You really never want to do that because you're locked into using that exact look and feel of that image. If you upload just a normal image and then you're able to use CSS to style it, to darken it, to do whatever you want to do, that is the preferable method, right? But I'm going to work with what I've been given here, which is a darkened image. So that it is what it is. But I am going to put a class on this section. I am going to put a class on this image for other purposes because this is a hero section. A hero section you should think of as like a globalized element. This hero is going to be used on many different pages. I don't know. I haven't looked at the other pages. I mean, we could take a look at them real quick and see. Okay, so there's two types of heroes, which is very common for a site like this. So you have your little hero strip, and then you have your like main home page hero, right? So what I can do is do like a hero and a hero large. All right, there's a bunch of different ways to do this, but what we need right now is just to put a class of hero on this section right here. And then this is going to be the hero image. So I'm going to do hero _image. This is where we bring BIM methodology in for keeping all of our custom classes organized. And you see right off the bat, we're starting not with utility classes, but with custom classes. And why am I doing that? Once again, because a hero is a globalized element that is used on other pages of the website. And if I have 5 pages using a hero, I want to be able to control the spacing in that hero. I want to control the overlay, right? I can't do it in this case because they gave me an image that already has an overlay baked in, but normally you would want to control the overlay style involved in that hero section. You would want to be able to control the heading in that hero, the lead text, everything, right? So we need to classify, I'll just make that word up as we go. We need to classify this. We need to add classes for the hero. So I have my hero _image. So the hero is the block B, right? BEM methodology. Hero is the block, image is the element E, and then we can have modifiers if we need them, but modifiers are not required. So hero image, I'm going to put that class on there. Next, I'm going to do, and here's where we get, this gets a little interesting and it gets into almost like sub-global components here. Okay, I'm going to skip over this right here. I'm going to click on my heading. This is going to be a hero _ heading. And then we also need, we actually don't have any lead text here. So we have this accent heading, a real heading, and then a button. So the buttons are another globalized, like a sub component, right? It's not actually a component of the hero. It's a component that looks the same everywhere that it's used. So we already have a utility class in automatic CSS for all of our buttons. So I'm going to do button primary, and it's going to transform it into the look and feel of this button, which we actually need to do a little bit more styling on to make it exactly match, but we'll get to that in just a second. But you see that because this is a sub-global component, a button, it's not really like related to the hero. It looks like all the other buttons on the website. It can just get a utility class because it's perfectly fine just that way. I don't need to do anything else with it. Now this heading needs to be an H1. And what I'm going to do is the new future of architecture. And here's another mistake that they've made. Watch this. I'm going to paste this in. I told you a lot of little golden nuggets. Do not ever do this. If you need a heading to be all caps, you do not write it in all caps, all right? The new future, not feature, of architecture. There you go. Write it like that, because now you're free with hero heading to style it, and I can go to the typography and I can choose to capitalize all of the words, to uppercase all of the words, to lowercase all of the words. You see all these work, right? Now watch this. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to inject it into the content, and then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say, all right, lowercase still works fine. I actually want to capitalize though. Oh no, I cannot capitalize it. It's forced to be uppercase because it was input as uppercase. CSS can transform it to lowercase, but cannot transform it to capitalization. So you have created, and if you've used uppercase text on all these different pages, you've screwed the pooch, my friend. You are up a creek with 0 paddles. All right, you are in Chumpville, as we say. So we don't want to do that. So we are going to go if I can select it properly, the new future of architecture. And apparently I'm getting lag now because I decided to do this one too many times. The new future of architecture. Let me save and refresh. Something has bugged out in the bricks. Okay, there we go. So now I'm okay to go style, and I can go to typography, and I can go to uppercase. Now in this case, if you look at all the headings, they're all uppercase. So it would actually be smarter, instead of controlling the uppercase style there, for me to go into theme styles, typography, and go to all headings, and then do uppercase. And now all my headings are uppercase by default, whether they have a class or no class, it doesn't matter, right? Okay, the next thing is this container right here. So I'm going to do hero _ content. I'm going to assign that class to this. Remember, it's the content section of a hero. So it's hero _ content. And then what this allows me to do is it allows me to control the gap between my content, between this like accent heading, this heading, and this button. Now we're going to pause here, and we're going to introduce a brand new utility class concept, something that I actually have not talked about before, but is very important. It's something that I baked into my brand new product, Frames, which is hands down the best wireframing and pre-design tool for bricks, and coming to other page builders as well. You can get it at getframes.io. It's a contextual utility class. That's what I'm calling them, contextual utility classes. So you see, most utility classes lack context. If I were to put a margin top of, let's say, M on that heading, I would get margin top on that heading. But I don't know where the margin top M class has been used everywhere else on the website, and I can never edit the value of margin top M. The reason being, well, unless I want every instance of margin top M, which could be used on an icon, could be used on an image, could be used on a heading, could be used on text somewhere, it could be used in a gazillion number of places. Very dangerous to edit the value of margin top M. So I'm basically, these generic utility classes are locked, right? Now in automatic CSS, you can always adjust them globally, but for most intents and purposes, you can't adjust them like you would adjust a custom class, for example. Now there's a tweener class called a contextual utility class. Check this out. We're going to create one, and it's going to be called content gap. So I'm going to do content gap. And what this is, and I've already actually done this on this training site before, you see that it has a row gap of var space s, which is a automatic CSS spacing variable. So even though I created a custom class, and I'll just remove this for a second. So now you see we're back to where we started. I could put anything I want here. I could put 10 rem here. I could put 1 m. I could put 20 pixels. Of course, I would not recommend using pixels. We've gone over this many, many, many times. But I'm going to use, because I like to stay hooked into the utility system. That way, all of my spacing, whether it's a utility class or a custom class or a contextual utility class, they're all perfectly consistent. So what I do is I put var space s, and that is the content gap, the gap between my content. So I'm going to use content gap everywhere I possibly can. And then I have granularized control over the gap in my content. And I can actually create a class of content gap, or What's actually better, I'm going to back up for a second because we're still technically doing this wrong because I'm using a utility class where I have a custom class. We don't want to get those two things mixed up. So what I need is actually a variable called content gap. So I'm going to quickly show you how to make a new variable. So we're going to hop over to, oh, I didn't want to do that. Let me go back in that tab and then let's go out in this tab. We're going to hop over to WP Codebox. You can do this anywhere. I'm going to delete all this stuff. So we can start from a clean slate, okay? So the way that you define a variable is by defining it at the root level. So you do :root, and then I'm going to zoom in for you here. And then you do a double dash to define the variable. We're going to define a variable called content gap. And then we are going to make this equal to var space s. So anywhere I use the variable content gap, it's like I'm inserting var space s, okay? So now I can go ahead and hit save, and that should be available to me here. I'm going to unzoom in. I'll zoom out, I guess it's called. And then I'm going to go to row gap, and I'm going to do var content gap. And now you see I have my content gap. And now I'm doing this at the ID level, of course, so that's no good. We're going to get rid of that. And let's figure out where our, I don't know, we lost our class. So I'm going to do hero _content. And then on hero _content, I'm going to do var content gap. So now I have global control over my hero spacing of my content. I have global control over my hero in general, which means if I need to make the top and bottom padding bigger or smaller or whatever, I now have an image in here that's globally controlled. And this is very important because I'm about to position this image. So what I'm going to do here is click on my hero class, style, layout, make sure this is position relative, because this image right here, I'm going to do style, position absolute. And then I'm going to align it top 0, right 0, bottom 0, left 0. And then I'm also, just to make sure it perfectly attaches itself to this section, I'm going to do a width of 100% and a height of 100%. And then I'm going to do an object fit of cover. And now it's going to behave exactly like a background image, except I have an alt tag. I have the ability to use source set. I have a lot of advantages over that being a background image. Now, you do see that we have run into a problem where our image is covering up our content. No problem whatsoever. I'm going to go ahead and go to style, z-index, and -1. And now that's putting that image behind my content. I know we're doing a lot of things right now, but this is what you get when you watch someone build a real site who is focused on scalability, maintainability, and best practices. And by the way, if you want more of this type of stuff, I have plenty of real full website builds that I do for clients inside of my inner circle. There's a link below. Go join the inner circle. Aside from full website builds and dev and best practices and all that stuff, we're covering accessibility. We're covering SEO, PPC, sales, agency growth, getting leads. Everything you can imagine for the work that you do is inside the inner circle. All right, so join below. Just a quick plug on that. Okay, next thing I need to do is I need to assign classes to all of these elements inside of my block. And this is another best practice rule. If you're going to go through the trouble to create a custom class for a block, you need to assign classes to every element inside of that block. And again, use the BIM methodology. So what I'm going to do here on this text here, this is going to be actually an accent heading. So what I want you to see is this is the little accent heading, right? And I'm guessing that in every big hero like this, there's going to be one of these, which means we have to globalize it, okay? Which means it gets its own custom class. Look, here's another accent heading, but this is a different style of accent heading. And that one is used here, and it's used here, and it's used here. So you can see the core principle in action. And you're going to hear me say this over and over and over again. Practice your principles. Don't skip out. Don't cut corners. Practice your principles every single minute of every single build. If you don't do this stuff, when you need to add to the site, when you need to make wholesale changes, when you need to edit things, you are going to be in a nightmare scenario. And you do not want that to happen. And you don't want to have to face your client and be like, ooh, that's really hard to do because the way we styled things, you know, we kind of got to go in. And you're going to have this whole conversation like a chump, all right, with your client because you didn't follow best practices. You didn't do things the right way. All right, so let's get back into it. Here we are. We are going back and we are assigning our classes. That's what we're going to do. All right, so this is a hero heading. We did that. We did our button. What we didn't do is this thing right here. And the reason we skipped this is one of those things that's like a, it's kind of a subcomponent, but not so much. And that's why I was showing you the difference between this accent heading and this accent heading. We're okay to attach this accent heading style to our hero by using BIM. So I can come in here and say hero accent heading, just like that. Because the only time I'm using this accent heading style is in a hero section like this. If you notice, everywhere else, it's a different accent heading style. So I am good to go with this accent style being attached to my hero. And that's one of the gray areas, like, because you're going to see when we get to this one, we do things a little bit differently. All right. Okay, so we've got all of this good to go. Now on my hero content, I can go ahead and go to typography, color, and we can choose white for that. So that's going to make all of that stuff white. Why is my heading not uppercase? I feel like I must have refreshed without actually saving or something. So all headings, uppercase. Okay, it's not doing that. Let's, what's going on? All right, hero heading, typography. Oh, because this is still stuck on lowercase. Okay. Yeah, I believe I refreshed and it saved some of the stuff I didn't want it to save. Okay. What does that button need to say? That needs to say just learn more. Man, what a boring ass call to action. Never. Learn more is one of the worst calls to action you could possibly put. So another thing to take note of there, another golden nugget. Now, because I put a class on this hero heading, I can come to style, I can go to layout, and there's a few different ways I can do this. Now, I could pick for a width, I could pick a random number. I could be like 30 CH, which is clearly not enough. 20 CH. How about 14 CH, which by the way is a character unit. I can go 12 and that gets me actually perfect, right? So that's 12 CH, just a random number. Or if you don't want to do that, if you want to kind of keep things more consistent and not have just random magic numbers for things, you can do something like var width L. That is a width utility variable that's part of automatic CSS. You can also do width M. Oh, look, width M actually gets us perfect. And because this is attached to a custom class, it's going to be like that for every hero heading that I create. So that's good to go. Now let's tackle the we promise to build. All right, so we're going to do content. I'm going to put this here so that's out of the way. All right, so this is going to say we promise to build. And then I'm going to style my accent heading. What are we going to do here? Now, this isn't a real heading. Number one, it should be a paragraph tag. Number two is I need to come down and probably, if I had to guess, change the font to match this. Yeah, I believe so. Let's inspect. Because this isn't actually a heading, it's not inheriting my heading font, Barlow semi-condensed. So definitely need to do that. So again, on your custom class, you're going to go to Barlow condensed. There you go. All right, and then we are going to uppercase that. And then I believe it also has like a 600 font weight, it looked like. And then it has this underline effect. Now, that's not actually a real underline. That is a pseudo element, most likely. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to layout, and I'm going to change this display to, well, we may not need to do that. Let's check on that in a second. We're just going to come up here and create an after. All right, so on your accent heading, I'm creating a pseudo class after. For our content, it's going to be just empty quotes, basically. And then we are going to do a width of 100%. We're going to do a height of 2 pixels. This is the only time, cases like this, where you can use pixels. All right, so height of 2 pixels. We need to give it a background color of, let's see, our primary color, I believe. It's that gold, okay? And do we have anything showing up? No, we don't have anything showing up yet. Let's go to layout, display, flex. Okay, and this is going to cause problems. And this is a bug in Bricks where you, yeah, you can choose flex, but you can't choose column or row or anything else. And actually, yeah, it's lost. It's not selecting my pseudo element anymore. So I'm going to go back to the after. Okay, display flex. Now you see it. And actually, okay, Thankfully, I don't need to do any other styling to it. I don't think. It looks to be perfect. And actually, I've chosen the wrong color and everything. I was just guessing. I actually like mine better. But we're going to have to go to typography. And we'll choose shade like medium or, yeah, light. Yeah, shade light. And then on our after, we're also going to choose light as our background color. So shade, and then we're going to choose light. And by the way, all of these, when you're using automatic CSS, are preloaded for you into the builder. So you don't have to worry about managing any of that. It's all ready to go for you. So now we have, let's see if our font size matches. I mean, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I like it. For consistency purposes, I like it. Okay, you've seen now we've built one section. We have global control over all of this because it's a hero. Now we're going to do something fundamentally different in the next section because that's how these website builds go, and that's how following best practices works in this context. So I'm going to add my next section down below, and we're going to work on this section where it's 2 columns, and then we have this stuff going on over here. And what you're going to find is that we can use utility classes for some things here, but not for everything. All right, so let's go ahead and walk through it. I can use utility classes for this 2-column grid because I'm not going to use, I may use this exact kind of layout on another page. However, it's such a basic layout and I want to be able to change things around that it's not a globalized component type of situation. All right. It's more flexible than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, you're much safer, you're safe enough, I should say. You're safe enough using utility classes here. And again, the benefit of utility classes is consistency. Of course, we have the utility variables too, so that when we use custom classes, we can hook into that consistency. But you also have speed, right? Utility classes do make things a lot faster. So now what I can do is say grid 2 to make a 2-column grid, grid L1 to make 1 column at the L breakpoint. I can do a gap of L to make a L gap between the 2 columns. And then I can do a stretch class to make the columns equal height. And now you can see just like that, I've whipped up a responsive 2-column grid. Now what I can do is I can put in 2 blocks. So bang, bang, there's my 2 blocks. And I can put an image inside of this block. And I don't need any classes on this image or anything else. I'm gonna go ahead and steal the URL for it. We'll just open that in a new tab and steal it and then come back. And let's close that inspector. Okay, now I am going to go to content, put in the external URL. So there's my image, right? I don't need to worry about custom classes for any of this. I can come over here, this gap, actually, I do need, well, one, we want to put the figure tag on this, but I do want to go with like 100% width. And then we're good there. Okay, it wasn't taking up the full container, so I want to take up the full container. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit save there to save our work. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put these things in. So I need effectively a text, a heading, text, and then a div. Well, we'll handle this in just a second. So text, heading, text. Let's start with that. So I am going to go to text, and then I'm going to go to heading, and then I'm going to go to text twice. Okay, there they are. And let's just deal with that for right now. So this is going to be an H2, and I don't need a custom class on this. It's just an H2 heading. That's all it is, right? So I am free to just grab the content. Oh, I can't copy the content because it's uppercase. So most experienced builders, architects, and designers. All right. Wow, what a mouthful. The most experienced architects and designers, something like that. Okay, perfect. Next, I am going to go with welcome to our agency. So this is welcome to our agency. And then we are going to, we actually can grab this text down here and we will put it, I'm the king of clicking on the wrong tab. Okay, so that is, I know it's going to start to bother you. Trust me, it bothers the shit out of me. But for some reason, my brain has to do it. It has to click on the wrong tab to get to the right tab. So here we are. Couple things. Let's take a look at what we've got going on. We know that this is a globalized subcomponent, this accent heading. So we cannot style this with utility classes, ladies and gentlemen. We have to use a custom class for this. This is okay, good to go. This looks kind of like, that's styled. And there's a very good chance that I may use that kind of styling on this type of thing somewhere else. So even though I'm not creating a full global component out of this whole thing, I am creating little subcomponents, all right? So this is gonna be called an accent heading. This is just a normal little paragraph, so that's fine. And let's go ahead and make sure that we are semantically accurate while we do this. So I'm putting a P tag on this. I'm putting a P tag on this. We don't want just divs floating around, okay? These are paragraphs. So let's make them paragraphs, right? Okay, so welcome to our agency is going to get a class of accent heading. So I'm going to put that in. And then this is going to get another class of accent. I'm going to call this an accent lead. Because a lot of times what I do is I call these lead paragraphs. And this would be an accent lead, right? It's like the lead before the lead. Or it could be like an accent subheading almost. Like, I don't know, what is the context of it? Like, we're building everything you always need in Architect. I mean, well, first of all, they don't even speak proper English, but we're building everything you always need in Architect. It's kind of like a subheading. It's kind of like a subheading. So this would be like a heading. This would be an accent heading. This would be like a subheading. Let's call it a subheading. So I'm gonna call this, and this is the greatest thing about bricks. Just edit the class. Just edit the name. It's gonna keep all the styling and all its references, right? So we'll call this accent subheading, just like that. So we have an accent heading and we have an accent subheading. I think that makes perfect sense. Now, what did we do up here? I created my var content gap. So what should I do here, guys? I should just use my utility class of content gap. Bam. Now I've got equal spacing there and here, right? I'm putting a gap between my content. It's contextual utility classes, all right? Now, the next thing I need to do is style my little accent subheading here. So what we need is just to make it italic and the primary color, all right? So I'm gonna go to style, I'm going to go to typography, I'm gonna go to italic, and then I'm gonna go to color, global, and choose my primary color. There we go. Now, do I need to change the font weight on it? It looks like it's a little thicker. It's a little thicker. You know what I'm saying? So let's go to 600. How about 500? What's the difference between 5 and 4? There's a difference. All right, so we're going to go with 500. Okay, so now we've got a semi-global component here. We're going to style our accent heading now. Okay, now could I be moving faster if I was just purely using utility classes? Or styling at the ID level even? Absolutely. I will be the first to admit that. I will be the first to tell you it's not a race. Okay? Look me right in the face. It's not a race. And you're going to see people, oh, side-by-side comparison. Who's the fastest developer? Which is the fastest page builder? How fast can I build a page in this one versus that one? None of that shit matters. None of that shit matters. Because you know what? Pro developers don't grade on speed. They grade on doing shit the right way. They grade on scalability. They grade on maintainability. They grade on best practices. I could fly through this thing. I could fly through this thing doing everything wrong, not scalable, not maintainable. It would look pixel perfect, but it would be a nightmare to maintain and a nightmare to build upon off into the future. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be a chump. Okay, so we're taking extra time to do it the right way. And then here's the thing. It actually, as you continue through a website build, and again, you go in the inner circle, you watch my full website builds, you're going to see that it takes a lot of time in the beginning to get started. But once the ball's rolling and you've got all these globalized components already pre-configured, it just, whew, it goes so fast. And then you're not like a chump going copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. No, none of that stuff. It's just done. It's done the right way, and it just works. And it's not a nightmare scenario. It's a joy to work on the website when it's been built properly. Okay. All right. Let's get off the high horse. Let's keep going with this. So I'm styling my accent heading. What does it need to look like? All uppercase, smaller text, medium gray, and a top bar. Okay, so let's go over here. We're going to go font size, hooking in to automatic CSS var text S. I want to hook into my small text size right there. I want to uppercase this. I want to bold it. Okay. I want to maybe a 600 on that. I want to assign it a different color, var shade medium. Okay. Just like that. I want to add a before element to it of content blank. Width is going to be 100%. Height is going to be 2 pixels. And then we are going to color it. Where's my background? Background of global primary. Okay. And then I also need to probably display this as flex. And I believe you see it right there. Yes, you do. But I did make a mistake on my before. I do not want it to be 100%. I want it to be more like 25%. So we're going to do 25% there. Let's take a look. Let's go to the front end, refresh. Okay, there's our little accent heading. And you see there's a bigger space between their bar and text and our bar and text. So I'm going to go to my before. I'm going to go to margin bottom. And here's an example, guys, where you don't always have to hook into automatic CSS or whatever framework you're using, if your framework even allows you to hook into it. Because some of those frameworks are chumps, right? And so they don't give you the variables. But ACSS, okay, we're going to keep moving. So what we do is we add a little margin bottom. You can go 0.5 em on this. You don't have to use a variable. You don't have to get fancy. You can go off-road, right? You can go your own path. You can do whatever you want to. All right, you can go all Bob Ross on this shit. Just, you know, add little things here and there.
But I wanna get you to try being creative on Canvas. Just to take your time and sit down, have nothing in mind when you start. Just have a good feeling and be happy and in love with life and your world and sit down and begin playing. And if you feel good about yourself and the world, it'll show in your painting, and all these little things will happen.
And there is a little bit of a text. Let's see. We'll go here, and then I don't want to make this perfect because it's not like, you know, that's not the goal here. Let's do like 0.025 em and just space that text out just a little bit. Okay. Next thing we want to add, we've got to tackle this list, guys. It's another little sub-globalized component because a checklist can be used anywhere, not just in this section. We may very well want this checklist other places. And you know what? Checklists are a bit of a pain in the ass. So if you're going to build one, you better build it right so you don't have to, you know, finagle it the wrong way the rest of your freaking life. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you how to properly build a list from scratch in bricks. So again, more golden nuggets for you. I'm going to go ahead and hit plus. We're going to add a div. And then I'm going to make this div. We're going to give it a class first of checklist, okay? Because it's a checklist. Got it? All right, so we're adding a class of checklist, but we're going to switch the HTML tag, not to address, don't do that, to UL, okay? Because it's an unordered list. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a div inside of that. And that div right there is going to be a checklist _ list item. Okay. So it's a list item attached to our checklist block element and then modifier if you need one. Okay. All right. So there we go with our list item. I'm going to make this a checklist over here. I'm not even going to fix that. I'm going to make this a list item. Okay, perfect. And then what I'm going to do is add an icon, and I'm going to add text as well. Okay, my icon is, guess what? A checklist. Say it with me. Icon. And then on our text, guess what that is? Checklist _ say it with me. Oh dear. All right, I hit the wrong, I hit a short code for switching tabs. Checklist text. All right, perfect. Now what I'm able to do is I can grab my checklist and make sure I'm on my class. And then we're going to go to layout padding left 0 because not 4,000 bricks. I want 0. Okay. Checklists always add default padding in builders like this. So we want to get rid of that. We want to make sure that this is a display of flex, and we want to make sure that it is a row. Okay. Why? Hang on one second. Why is that not? Oh, okay. Never mind. Sorry. My brain, ignore everything I just said. This does not matter. So we want to do that on our list item. Had a little brain fart there. Okay. So on our list item, we're going to make sure our class is selected. This gets changed to flex, and then we are on row, and then we want to align items to the center. And then we want to grab our content. So this is just lorem ipsum nonsense, but we'll just throw that in. Put that in there. Awesome. This icon, we need to change to an actual check mark. Okay. So we're going to grab our font awesome solid here. And then on my size, there's another area where you're fine to do pixels, but I'll also give you a little quick tip. Automatic CSS, make it the exact same size as your text. Oh, just like that. They're both equal. I don't even need to know what the values are. I just need to know that they're both medium size, okay? All right, so next thing we're gonna do is in our list item, we are going to add a column gap. Again, we're not gonna use a variable here, 0.5em. Just good enough, right? Now, I think it's styled a little bit more, so our check marks are primary color, and then the text is just normal text, okay? So we're gonna say that this checklist color is primary. And let me just show you something. Let's say we didn't even realize that was supposed to be primary. I take my list item and I duplicate it and I build out my entire list, right? And then I come over to my checklist and I say, you know what? We need to space those out. So we're gonna go var space S, something like that. And then this needs to be a flex item for those to work of column. Okay, so now I've spaced those out. They actually need to be XS. All right, so something like that. And then I'm like, oh no, I forgot these need to be gold. Well, if you style these at the ID level, you'd be going one by one, switching all those to gold, right? Or to primary color. But all I have to do is make sure my class is selected, and then I can go to global, and I can go to primary. No copy paste, like some people will want you to do, will ask you to do. And I just say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna do it the right way. All right, so I'm gonna hit save. Awesome, so I've got my little list. Now, guess what? I can use this checklist anywhere I want on the website. It's always gonna look like that. Any change I make to it's gonna show up everywhere. It's gonna be absolutely perfect. So you see the power in setting this stuff up right from the beginning. And by the way, guys, this is taking even longer than it would because I'm sitting here talking you through it, right? If I was just zipping through this, it really wouldn't be all that much extra work. Especially as you practice your principles, you get really good at it, okay? All right, so where is my design? All right, here we go. So now I need this little thing right here. You know what? To me, that seems like another little sub-global component. I would not want to use utility classes for this. I want to make a new little component out of it, and we're going to call it a signature card. A signature card, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a div, and I'm going to call this signature card. And then I'm going to look at it, and what it is a flex row with an image on the left, and then it's going to have another div over here to stack this content on top of itself, okay? So I'm going to add an image, a div. Inside the div is going to be, is this an image or is this like a new font that they loaded? Okay, that's just a font. So text. So image, text. All right, you ready for this? We're going to go over here into our builder. The king of clicking the wrong tabs. Image, boom. And then I'm also going to do a div. And then inside of that div, we are going text. So 2 texts. Awesome. And you see it looks like we just have a bunch of nonsense going on here, right? Let me get this Ecamm Live window out of the way. All right. So I'm going to select my div. So this is my signature card. And we're going to go display flex horizontal. So now I can do my image thing. Let's go ahead and grab this, steal this URL. Thank you. Okay. And insert it here. Nope, not like that. Insert it with external URL. Perfect. Figure, object fit, cover, and then, oh no, we're already doing things wrong. We don't want to hit object fit cover yet. We want to give this a class. So we are, and this is why typically I recommend, not going one element at a time. Do all of your classes, then do all of your styling, right? So this is signature card double underscore. I would say headshot because it provides it more context for what's going on here. And then this is going to be signature card double underscore signature. This is going to be double underscore signature card double underscore. What even is it? Title. Okay. It's like the person's role, their title in the company. All right. So her title is co-founder. Okay. And now because I'm creating a globalized component like this, I can use it anywhere on the site. I can use it in a query loop. I can use it in dynamic data on a blog post. I can use this anywhere, right? It's very, very powerful. So Christine Eve is her name. So we're going to do Christine Eve. Perfect. And then on this class, we're going to do object fit cover. We're going to do no caption. We don't need to do alt text right now. Normally you would do that. I'm not going to worry about that kind of stuff. Style, we're going to do a width of, oh man, let's do 12 rem. How big? Oh, it's much smaller than that. 6 rem, something like that. Okay. And now what we want to do is on our signature card, we want to apply a column gap of like 1 em, just to space those out, maybe even like 0.75 em. And then what we'd like to do also there is center everything horizontally. And then on her name, this is where we need to figure out what font they used. So I'm going to go to computed. Font family is St. Delafield. Never heard of it. Don't even know if it's a Google font. Don't even know if we can load it. Let's go to typography. Font Delafield. Oh, it's right there. Oh, yep, there it is. Look at that, my friends. Okay, var text L on our font size. Why is it not changing? Okay, var, can I just do like 80 pixels? Oh, that works. Well, what's going on with our var? Var text L? No, it did change it. Okay, XL, just not getting big enough. Font line height 1. And then on the line height here of signature card title, I also want 1. I don't want a lot of line height messing with stuff. I believe this is going to have to go much bolder. Oh, there's only 1 font weight. So I cannot really do that bolded effect that they did there. So whatever, we're good. We're good enough. I think you get the point, right? So co-founder, we're going to do uppercase. This is on the title. So uppercase, font size, var, text S. I'm hooking into the small text size and automatic CSS. I'm going to do a shade medium on that. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to do a little bit more on our font weight, 500. And I just lost the color again. I don't know what is going on with that today in bricks. Save, refresh. Look at where we're at. Okay. And I've got this globalized checklist I can use everywhere. I've got this card I can use everywhere. Let's go back and go to border radius here. And I can just do a radius of 50% on all sides. And that's going to make it a circle. Oh, but because it's a figure, I've run into this problem before. When you make it you've got to do some extra work if you want to make it a figure and make it rounded. So we're just going to do it like this without the figure for right now, because I'm not about the extra work in this video. Next thing I want to do is I want to align this all down. And guess what? This is not a full globalized component. I can go back to using utility classes. So I can do align items. Actually, I'll just do an easier one. Center left, right? Center left will get me to the left, but centered horizontally. All right. So we're going to save and look at that. Let's go view this on the front end. There is our section. So we've got a nice globalized hero. We've got a nice intro about section with partially globalized content, but a lot of other stuff was done using utility classes. We are perfectly responsive. Everything's looking good, okay? Except that right there doesn't look so great. We're gonna have to come back and check on why that width is getting a little out of control. I'm guessing it's a max width issue. We can easily fix that. All right, so let's just keep going. I think we're doing well. Let me check on our time here. Where is my recording time? Okay, we're at an hour. I said I wasn't gonna worry too much about it. We're gonna keep moving. I think at some point you're all gonna realize what's going on here, right? Like when to use the utility classes, when to use custom classes, how to integrate the variables, and you understand the point of why we're doing all this. Let's do one more section at minimum, because there is something important about this section, very important about this grid, very important about 2 different things going on in here. You're not going to want to miss this. So do not click out thinking, hey, I've got it all figured out. Okay. We're going to do some stuff you haven't seen yet. All right. Very important stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new section, and then I am going to make a a new globalized component, because look at this. See this intro? I call these intros. It is also used here. It is also used, I bet, on gazillions of other pages across this website as this website gets bigger and bigger. So do I want global control over this kind of intro section? Absolutely. This must be a globalized component. So what I'm going to do is king of clicking into the wrong tab. I'm going to call this section intro. And if you have multiple types of section intros, you can do section intro alpha, section intro, and you can even do it with modifiers stacked. There's a lot of different ones you can do, okay? I'm just going to do section intro. It's the only one we see so far. And aside from this, which is kind of like didn't even need one. So our services, so text heading. All right, so I'm going to come in and we're going to do text and we're going to do a heading. Perfect. And I am going to say that this is a section intro double underscore. Oh, actually, no, let's look at it. That's an ax. Well, okay. So this is interesting. You see how these are centered and our bar needs to be centered. And sometimes it's left and sometimes it's centered. And we only have one accent heading. So we need something called an accent heading centered. And I wonder if section, okay. Some of this does take a little bit of extra thought. All right, so we're going to call this accent heading double dash centered. Why? Because I'm modifying our other accent heading that we created. So the real way to do this would be to put our other accent heading on there. And then for accent, so it's really going to need two classes. And this is typically how these modifiers work, okay? So on accent heading, that gives it our main style. Is that a flex item? It's not, but I can make it a flex item. And then I can make it a vertical flex item, which this is the bug in Bricks. You can't actually stack the flex item in this context. So I'm going to go to CSS, root, and I'm going to say flex direction is column, and that's going to reset it back to the way it was. But what this is going to give me the ability to do, check this out, layout, I'm going to align everything to the left on that axis. And then on my centered, all I should have to do is align it to the center. Look at that, my friends. Okay, now what I also want to do on my centered class is I want to go centered text. All right, perfect. This needs to be a heading 2. This is going to be our section intro heading. Golly, come on. Section intro heading. Perfect. And then what I'm going to do with my section intro is I'm going to align everything to the center. I'm going to make sure that all of our typography is centered. And then at the M breakpoint, I actually want all this to go back to the left automatically so that on mobile, everything is nice and left aligned. So I'm going to do text align left. I'm going to do, where is layout? No, I'm going to go back to the content tab and I'm going to align everything to the left here. And then on our accent heading centered, I'm going to style this, bringing everything back to the left again. And so it's going to all take care of itself perfectly. Now, section intro, what I'm going to do here, guess what, is probably use my var content gap that I created, right? So we can get a nice content gap in there. Yeah, there you go. All right, we're getting a little lag. I'm going to go ahead and save, refresh. Okay, let's check out where we're at. Okay, perfect. It did not get our var content gap. var content gap. Okay, there we go. Let's save our work. All right, what is our heading here? What we're offering. So I'm going to go what we're offering. Guys, if you're getting value from this, like if you have not hit like yet, if you have not subscribed to this channel, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you know, you are heading, you've got a one-way ticket to Chumpville, okay? You've got to be subscribed to this channel and you got to be hitting the thumbs up. So there's a globalized component called, and then here's another tip for you right here. What I'm going to do is close all these panels. we're going to grab this container, call it a section intro, and then you need to be doing this, guys. Look, you need to go save as template, and then template type is a section, and then you can bundle it if you want to. You don't even have to do that. Look at right there. I have a section intro. The next time I create a section, watch this. I go section. I'm like, you know what? I need one of my intros there. I hit templates, insert section intro. There it is right there. I can drag it in and I'm off to the races. I don't have to go copy it from here and paste it. If I'm on a brand new page where one doesn't even exist in order to copy it, I can just add it from my library. Amazing. I said I wasn't going to worry about the time. My family's going to be home soon. It's bedtime. I got to help. Okay. So we're going to start to close this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tackle this service card grid. And there's some very important things here. Number one, this needs to be in another container. All right. So what I'm going to do, king of clicking the wrong tab, I'm going to add a container. And you're going to notice these containers are right next to each other. You know what I would like? I would like a contextual utility class that gives me control over all of my container spacing throughout the entire website. Contextual utility class, right? So we're going to create something called container, if I can spell it right, container gap. Okay. Now I've already created that on this. I don't think we used it yet. Yeah, we have it. So I've already created that on this training site. And what you'll notice is that it has a variable of var space L. So it's putting L spacing between all of my containers anytime I use it. I also have a variable for container gap. All right, that's one thing. So another contextual utility class use case. Now I'm going to talk about this grid. Here's the mistake I think a lot of people would make. And I've done this in past trainings, just being fast, doing things on the fly. But really, this is not just a random 3-column grid of content. This is a service card grid. And it is very likely that you will use this service card grid on other pages of this website. So what you need to do is actually create a custom class for this grid, because you may need to change this from 3 columns to 2 columns, or 2 columns to 4 columns, or you may need to change the gap in between. And if you build this with utility classes, and then this service card grid is in 5 different pages of the website or 15 different pages of the website, guess what? You're going to be the chump going page to page to page, grid to grid to grid, removing classes, adding classes, removing classes, adding classes. Or if you're in those other page builders, you're going to be going copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, because you didn't create a single source of truth for the design of this service grid. You knew you were very likely to be using this other places on the site, and still you didn't create a globalized component out of it. That's on you, okay? So you need to be telling yourself, man, I'm a chump if you're doing that. If you're doing copy paste game, if you're doing the remove utility classes, add utility classes game, you should be recognizing your chump status as you do that. I'm just saying, okay? All right, so here we go. We are calling this a services grid. And then what we're going to do, this is so unfortunate, Bricks does not have a grid builder. So, and this is why a lot of you, or probably you would use utility classes, or even worse, you would use the columns element. Okay, we won't go there. I've done a video on that. All right, go back and find the video, columns versus grid, if you don't know what I'm talking about. But here we go, services grid. We're gonna have to write some CSS. I'm sorry, but this is gonna be a very, very good learning experience. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna target our services grid, and we're gonna open up, and by the way, I'm writing in Sass, so it's like amplified CSS, CSS with superpowers, if you will. Fantastic. I'm teaching it as much as possible in my tutorials, so I want you to start experimenting with it if you haven't already. What we're gonna do, one thing I want you to notice, let me just put 3 objects in here. Let me do div, and just for right now, what we're gonna do is, and actually I can use blocks. Let's not confuse everybody. Let's just use a book. I want it to be a flex element anyway. All right, keyboard's going crazy. All right, so we added a block, and 2, 3. See how they're stacked on top of each other? That's actually what we want at like that device size right there, okay? So 767, we want them to stack. You could even do it here, but I think that's a little too small. So it's 767. We want them to stack. So it's only above 767 do we want them to actually appear as a grid. So to be efficient as possible, and this is why I love Sash, you can nest things, even media queries. So I'm going to do @media, and I'm going to do, brain fart, min width 767 pixels, cannot type today whatsoever. Display grid template columns. First you say, hey, we're going to display this as a grid. Next, you define the column structure. So you want to start to memorize things like this. Repeat 3. So it's a 3-column grid repeating, and each grid cell needs to be 1 fractional unit, which means they're all going to be exactly the same. All right, so repeat 3 1FR. That's a classic grid structure. You want to memorize that in your brain. You can do repeat 2FR for a 2-column grid, 4FR for a 4-column grid. You get it? It's very easy. So once you've done it, it's like riding a bike, okay? It's going to get easier and easier. Display grid template columns, gap. We want to define a gap between these items of, I'm just going to do 1 info right now because we're going to come back to this. Very important. Another sub lesson, another golden nugget. All right, then what we're going to do is we're going to do align items to stretch because we want them all to be equal height, all right? Now, that's only going to happen above 767. All right, where's my grid? See, I still have a grid there. I go to 767, I no longer have a grid. They're stacking on top. But I'm going to cheat a little bit. I still want that kind of displayed as a grid because I still want the gap. I just want it to be like a 1-column grid. So cheat code, display grid up here outside of your media query, gap of 1em, and you're still going to have a stacked content, but you're going to have a nice gap still between your cards that exactly matches the gap that you have at these breakpoints. So you see what I've done is I've created a responsive grid. All right, just like that. Very, not a ton of CSS here. Good to go. Now we have to do one more thing, one more smart thing. Look right here. Remember I created this utility, this contextual utility class before called content gap? Very likely, guys, very likely that you want the grid spacing on a lot of your grids across the site to be exactly the same. And you don't want to have to remember, did I use gap M? Did I use gap L? Did I use gap XL, gap S? Which one was it, right? You don't have to know. You just have to know that you used grid gap. So we're going to make a contextual utility class called grid gap. And the value of this is going to be space M. Okay, so medium spacing. And now what I can do is for my gap, and I can do, I wonder if, do I have I don't have multi-cursor editing in here. Okay, so var grid gap, and then I'll just copy that and put it right there. Okay, so now I'm referencing var grid gap here. And then if I want to, I can also, while I'm here, just create a grid gap utility class. So I have access to that. And we're going to say that the gap is var grid gap, just like that. Okay, so I am going to go back to the front end. We see that we still have my gap. Nice, perfect, okay? It's a little bit aggressive of a gap. So what I'm actually gonna do is come up here and change it to space S. And now my cards are gonna be a little bit closer together. Okay, so I like that. So that now I've globalized my grid for my services card. Now what I wanna do is actually create our service card. So I'm gonna give that a class of service card. You know, right? You are not going chump mode. And let me zoom out on these. Zoom out. Okay. You are not gonna build this with utility classes. We already know that, right? Okay. So what I need is image, heading, text. Image, heading, text. All right. So we're going to go back to the builder. We're going to go image, heading, text. Okay. Perfect. Now I'm going to steal the image from right here. Now, normally I'll give you another little hint. Okay. Normally, you would be, grab this, copy image address. You would be creating these out of custom post types, and you would be querying them onto the page with a query loop if you were a pro, all right? I'm not going to go through all that right now because it's not the point of this particular training, but that's what you normally would be doing. And you'd be inserting all this with dynamic content. All right, so I'm going to grab this, put that image in there. We are going to give this a class of service card image. And then we're going to give this a class of, remember I said, do all your classes first, service card heading, and then do your styling. Okay, service card text. And we're going to do service card link. All right, good. Now, a lot of times what you would see me do, I've done a how to build a card properly in bricks. I've done one in Oxygen. If you want to know how to build cards properly for accessibility and really good semantic HTML and all of that, then I want you to go watch those trainings. I'm not going to go into all that detail here because it's not the point of this particular training. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first make this service card image. Another tip right here, when you're using icons like this, they're not always symmetrical. So if you use width to control their size, they're going to be different heights, and then your content is going to be off alignment. So if you use height to control these, this is one of those areas where you actually want to use height instead of width, and you're going to be much better off. All right. So I am going to go to layout, and then we're going to go to height, and I'm going to do like 8 rem. And that looks maybe like 6 rem. That looks about right. Okay, on my service card, I am going to align everything to the center. I am going to go to typography, and I'm going to center everything there. And then guess what I'm going to do? I am going to, one of two options here. I can do var content gap, but content gap might be too big for cards in certain situations. So you could create a new variable. We could go over here and say, you know what? I want a card gap. So this is the gap between the content in your cards. And you could say that this is space excess maybe. Or maybe if this was M up here, you could do S down here. I'm just going to do S, which is going to be exactly the same. But content gap, if you want bigger gaps in your content, that you can change without affecting your cards now. See how this works? Okay, contextual utility classes. All right, space S. So we're going to go ahead and hit save. And then I can change this to card gap. And you see I still have the same gap. So everything is working nicely. Let's go ahead and drop some content in here. King of clicking the wrong tab. Interior design. And then I am going to grab, let's get out of this. Let's grab this text. And I need to, we'll do that in just a second. So I'm going to grab this card heading, style, font weight, 500. And then our learn more button. That's what you need to take care of. So this is going to be learn more. Again, terrible call to action. Style, uppercase, font size, var, text, S. I'm starting to, my voice, I'm starting to feel it, guys. All right, var, I'm not going to last much longer. Text S. And then what we want to do is I'm just hopping around a little bit. So on our layout, our padding, we're going to hook in again, space XL, because I'm noticing that there's a lot on the top and the bottom, a little bit less on the sides. So big spacing on the top and the bottom, and then var space, let's do like M on the side. Let's do L on the side. Okay, so we have XL top and bottom. We have L on the sides. And I actually want to go to XXL top and bottom. Okay, that looks really, really clean to me. Okay, so this link needs to be font weight 600. We need to add an after element, okay, because we need to underline it, and that's not a real underline. So we're going to go to after, and we're going to go color is going to be global primary. And then our layout, our width is going to be 100%. Wow, come on, bricks, 100%. Our height is going to be 2 pixels. And our display is going to be flex. And our, what are we missing? Oh, our content. Okay, empty content. Do we have a line? Oh, we don't have a line. So what's going on? Oh, I know what it is. We didn't give it a color. Or I thought I did, but maybe it, yeah, it's there. Okay, geez Louise. I feel like I already did that. Roll the tape back. Did I do that? I'm pretty sure I did that. All right, let's refresh. Okay, you know what we don't have? One thing we don't have is but I want to prove something to you, okay? So we're going to delete these other cards, these other blocks that are just empty. And because I've got classes on everything, guys, I can just duplicate this 2 more times. All right, we've still got our gap here. we do need to put in this little background. So what I'm going to do here, I am going to use utility classes here. Not up there though. Let's do it right here. And we're going to do BG shade ultra light. That's going to give us that nice light gray. And then I'm going to do a pseudo overlap technique. Okay. There's a couple different ways to do this. I've done other videos on this in the past. I'm a big fan of the inset box shadow pseudo overlap technique. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to make a class for this. I'm going to make a class for this called pseudo overlap, just like that. And I'm going to do an inset box shadow. So we're going to tack on inset. The x-axis is going to be minus, no. The y-axis, sorry, x is 0. 200 pixels, minus 200 pixels. Blur of 0, spread of, I might have to do a spread. Sorry, let me think about this for a second. Nope, we're good. We're good. Okay. How high does that need to go? Oh, much higher. So this needs to be more like 300, 400, minus 350, 340. There you go. So if you look, it goes right through. Actually, it goes right through like where the icon is. So something like that. All right, that's perfect. Now what I'm going to do is our card, our service card, see how I forgot a background color and I forgot a box shadow. But because I use classes on everything, I can do this without being a copy paste chump, and I can just add a background color to the class. And then I can go down to box shadow and I can say 2, 40, minus 5, shade ultra dark. That's 20. And no, there you go. That's 20. And then that's 10. So I'm just deciding, do I want 20 or 10? I probably want 20. Okay. That's looking good. Now we do have this little background image that we got to put in. So I'm going to do that real quick. And then I think we're going to close this out. We're going to call it a day. I think you've learned enough. Again, if you haven't hit like, if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and position this background image. This is divception. So I got to figure out exactly where this thing is. All right. Save image. Actually, just copy image address. And on my service card, what I want to do, I'm actually assigning this background image to the class because I want it to be the same on every single card. Look at here. It's the same exact one on every single card. So that means it needs to be assigned to the class. So I'm going to go to Style, Background, Select Image. Nope, don't select image. External URL. And then what we're going to have to do is go No Repeat. Background size, we're going to have to do a manual background size. Why can't I click this? Okay, custom. And I'm just going to guess like 400 pixels or so. I think that's perfect. Oh, did I hit the nail on the head? Look, the tip comes down to like interior design. Oh my gosh. It's like, I could go like 380 to really make it perfect, but I mean, out of the gate, top left is good. No repeat. All right. So we have got our service card. Notice that it applied to all of them automatically because, you know, we did the right thing. We created our custom classes. We followed best practices. We made a scalable, maintainable section and a scalable, maintainable card element. All right. So I am going to save here. And man, I think that's going to be the end. Did we miss anything? Let me look here again. No, I don't think we missed anything. All right, guys, let me go back to camera here. That was a lot. I'm losing my voice. I really do hope that it clicked for you. That's really what I want is by the end of the video, I wanted this stuff to click because this, again, I'll reiterate. It's a question that I get asked over and over and over again. It's one of the biggest points of confusion when using utility frameworks, whether to use utility class or custom class, how to hook in with variables. Even if you don't use a utility framework, I'll say it again. If you're creating your own custom classes versus when can I style at the ID level or make my own utility class? When do I use a custom class? How do I name the custom class? How do I organize my custom classes? All of that stuff was answered for you in this video. So if you got value, hit like, hit subscribe. If you want in-depth trainings like this, There's a gazillion of them inside my inner circle. Link to join is down below. And along with a bunch of other stuff that's not even dev related, agency growth, SEO, PPC, sales, getting leads, accessibility. We're covering everything. And it's an amazing community, over 800 active members. It's absolutely fantastic. So I want to see you inside. We've got masterminds in there. We've got a lot of cool stuff going on. So I will see you guys soon. I really appreciate the fact that you stayed till the very, very end. You are an OG, my friend. I love you. And I can't wait to provide more content for you. Cheers.